It's Friday. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to 55 minutes of current and relevant business conversations. That's what we do here on Business Morning. I'm Ini John McQuan. We start as usual from the global space, where oil prices fell slightly on Thursday as the possibility of U.S. tariffs being reinstated raised questions about demand ahead of unexpected supply boost by major producers. So we see for this morning, it's a red one. So it was worse than this earlier today. It was almost 1% down. But we see now 0.38% in the red, bringing Brent to $68.54 a barrel, and WTI also down 0.22% to $66.85 a barrel. A preliminary trade deal between US and Vietnam also boosted prices. Tariff uncertainty looms large. However, the 90-day pause on implementation of higher US tariffs ends July 9, so we're counting down to that, and several large trading partners are yet to clinch trade deals, including the EU and Japan, raising concerns about the economic impacts with implications for fuel demand. The OPEC Plus group oil producers, meanwhile, they're expected to agree to raise output by 411,000 barrels per day at its policy meeting this weekend. In Nigeria, the federal government has set 23rd and 24th of this month for a national stakeholders summit to address growing concerns over petrol prices and supply dynamics in the downstream sector. The planned summit, which is organized by the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, is expected to bring together industry operators, marketers, refiners, and government officials to deliberate on petroleum pricing standards, feedstock adequacy, and strategies to stabilize the deregulated market. So we look forward to that meeting, which is later on this month. And the electricity distribution companies in Nigeria collected 553.63 billion naira in the first quarter of 2025, according to a report by the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission. The amount is based on a total consumer or customer billings of 744.27 billion naira, reflecting a collection efficiency of 74.39%, down from 77.44%. NERC says more meters and better customer data are key to boosting collections. It has rolled out tranche of the meter acquisition fund to address this. And staying on this matter, the issue of meters, it sounds unbelievable that a consumer would request for a meter and be told that meter is not available. And it's happening. It's happening right now in Lagos at Ikeja Disco. It just sounds so absurd, that a customer would go to Ikeja Disco and will be told that there is no meter, and so the person has to stay without being connected or electricity. And we are talking about boosting revenue. It's a matter in Nigeria which we have to face, unfortunately. Now, staying with the NERC, they said there was no grid collapse nor power system disturbance in the first quarter of 2025, and this is according to their latest report. That's the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission. And this milestone, according to the NERC, marks a major improvement in the grid stability across the country to improve grid management practices. The report, which assesses grid performance, market remittance, and metering, as well as customer service, highlights the electricity market regulators' push for enhanced system coordination despite some operational challenges. Away from NERC now, the Asset Management Corporation of Nigeria, that's AMCON, they've confirmed the sale of its 60% stake in the Ibadan Electricity Distribution Company for close to 100 billion naira. That's nearly double the original reserve. The managing director and chief executive officer of AMCON, Benga Alade, revealed this while addressing the media executives in Lagos. He explains that the sale is part of ongoing efforts by the new leadership to create value from distressed assets, many of which have been tied up in legal tussle for years.
Today, I announce to you that Ibadan Disco had been sold. When we came in, It has already been sold. But sold for how much? We got in and we said, no, it cannot be. They should go and submit a new offer that we were not going to sell for that. And believe you me, at the end of the day, we got almost double what Ibadan Disco was going to be sold for. Even though there are so many interests right now, fighting and writing and doing all that, we are in course. But we are very, very positive that we did the right thing. It is one thing to value your house at 1 billion. It is another thing to find anybody to buy it for that price. Is that not true? This is what many people didn't know.
Welcome back. It's Business Morning here on Channels Television. Let's start our conversation this morning with the creative. And I know a couple of days ago we did talk a little bit about interior design and some of the things. But today let's look at how those talents can actually become profits or business. We have someone who has done that here, the founder and chief executive officer of Vicky Heldon Group of Companies, Dr. Victory Njoku.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us. Good morning.
Good morning to you.
Yeah, so turning your talent into business, are there some steps that you should follow, or do you just follow your heart?
Okay, that's an interesting question. For creative, I believe that it has to do more with innate talents most times. So with that, once you have the conviction to start, you just go on with it. But then you have to understand that there are factors that govern this particular industry you're about to step into. So I mean, some people can afford the funds to go to school or something, but I mean, you have your phones online, you can search up for things and, come up with something that works with the business you want to go into, the creative business you want to dabble into. And moving forward, as you transcend from one level to another, you begin to hone your skills the right way.
But at some points, you do need to get educated,
yeah,
something formal.
So that's the formal one, that's the education. So, because for me, what happened with me was that, I mean, I'm using myself as an example now. I started with fashion first.
When you say fashion,
Fashion
is it
design.
sewing? Is it...
Yeah, fashion design. Yeah, sewing, making clothes. But then I didn't have the knowledge on how to go about it. So I just knew about designing. I could sketch and design and give it to a tailor to bring my design to reality. So moving forward, I decided to go into fashion school and all of that. And then the business grew into over 8 years, and I went into interior design. I went to interior design school as well. So so why I'm saying this is because some people don't have the funding to actually start up most times. I started my business with 25,000 naira. Yeah, so with that, you can't say that I had everything all sorted out. But then as you move, you make gradual steps and you improve yourself as well as your business too.
Okay, so as let me say, as a mother, you notice your child is good with sketching.
Yes.
So you, of course, encourage the child to continue with that. And then what else do you do, to push the child towards the area you see as the right path for that child?
Okay, the right path, because I tell parents now that they should look out for the talents that their children possess, because it's very important to train them from their formative years so they could understand. So doing that, you either put the child in a school. Let's say the child is good with music, piano, and all. You put him in a piano school, a music school. You get a tutor, a private tutor to groom that child in that line. And as the child proceeds, he will be able to become better and, hone his skills better as he grows, yes.
But in Nigeria, you still have to go through the primary, secondary, university, get a first degree.
Of course.
Before you're able to... I wish there was a way that...
So my point there is that we should encourage more vocational, we should put that into curriculums, put this, the creative aspect of education into the school curriculum from the kindergarten. Because I stumbled on a video online where you had Chinese children learning all sort of skills from cooking, from sewing at a very, very tender age. I'm saying kids like 3 years old, 4 years old, you see them doing stuff with your hands. So with that, that child is going to develop over time. You understand? Yes.
So let me ask you a direct
Yes.
question. You are an
Yes.
employer of labor.
Oh, yes, I am.
So if someone comes to you without a university degree,
Yes.
you are in the creative and says, oh, I can do this, how much chance does the person have in your company?
Okay, for me, I always tell people that sometimes these talents are innate. So I like to give people a try. So when I give you a try, because I'm in the design industry, I'm a creative. So I've employed someone before who has so much passion for interior design. I mean, she could transform a space into anything. But then if I was just looking at so now I look at you, I see where your strength is, and I see how we can develop it to become better. So it's about giving someone a chance. So when you find out that this person is actually gifted, even without education, you put that person through, and moving forward, you can decide to go into to educate himself better, to become better.
So you can employ someone without a university degree?
Of course, why not? So yeah, I can.
Then the issue of interior design, how popular is it now? In Nigeria, do people really employ people to come and, decorate?
Oh yes, of course. I'd say it's a niche on its own. It's a market on its own, because interior design is not cheap. So it's just like you having an idea and then saying, okay, I don't want to do it myself. I want to get someone in. I want to employ someone in to come do it for me. It's like you're paying for a service. So if you want to pay for that service, you're going to hand over everything that has to do with your space to that person, and it's sorted. But for me, I feel like because it's not a job that, it's not like it's like giving someone your space, handing over your space and your idea, someone bringing your idea to reality. That's what it is. So you can decide to do it yourself, it's fine. You can decide to give it to someone, it's okay too. But it's become very it's growing. It's a growing industry.
It's an elitist sector now.
According to what they say. I don't know what that means, but maybe that's what it is.
Because it's only the very rich that can actually do that at this time in Nigeria.
I wouldn't say very rich. So let's say, yeah, maybe middle class. Yeah, middle class to elite. Yeah, that's where it comes from. Yeah.
Okay. So what do you see as the future, for that sector? As you have said, it's catching on. It's not really there yet.
Yeah, it's growing. And there are a lot of factors that affect this industry, especially the creative industry in general. There's so much. You have funding, you have all of that. You have intellectual property protection rights.
There's a problem there too.
Oh, of course, because some people I see, this industry is really broad. So it depends on where you want to look at it from. So someone can have a design in design in his website or something, and then you go copy it, color for color, style for style, and all of that. I mean, that calls for some form of questioning and all that at some point. But then in our industry, they don't really take it so seriously. So we just look at it like it's challenging, because you have to do with artisans, skilled workers, and all of that. You have to keep training. So it's an industry that you have to keep working, training, developing, and trying to get into trends, all of that. You have to. It's a continuous process.
Are there ways to protect your ideas?
Yeah, that's where I'm coming from now. What people mostly do is
because if you put it in the open, most likely somebody will see it and maybe change one or two colors, but still.
Exactly. So my point is, I just tell people the world is big enough. The sky is big enough for everyone to explore and succeed. Someone can inspire you. You can get inspired from something, and in the creative world, it's more of inspiration. That's where they target to. So they wouldn't say, I copied this for this, you know. You just said someone inspired me. So maybe you can give credit to that person or that designer who inspired you. I mean, I think in the world of architecture, we find out a lot too as well. There's this woman, she's late now, Hadid Zahid. She was a very, very top architectural designer. A lot of her works, a lot of architects has actually copied some of her designs and infused theirs as well. And they always put it that this was inspired by, you know, Hadid has it. You know, so it's something that, I mean, it's a free world.
But do you guys have an association? Because
yes, there is IDAN, there is Interior Designers Association of Nigeria. There is, but I feel like with those associations and it builds collaboration more. It strengthens the industry. That's what I feel. And then in terms of funding, and because creatives rarely get funding in this part of the world, access to funding. So my own take is that financial institutions like banks and other financial platforms can come together to synergize to see how they can raise funds for industries, for the creative industry.
But they will ask you why. I mean, we have agriculture, which
yeah.
seems to be more dire this time.
Please. I mean, over the years, let's say for the GDP of the nation, I think in 2022, it was stated that the creative industry generated over $5.6 billion. I mean, which was coming from motion picture, film, music, and design as well, the world of design, fashion, interior design, and all of that. And by 2027, they're projecting over 20 billion. Then by 2030, we should be like 100 billion or even more. So, I mean, it's a viable, it's a viable sector at the end of the day, looking at it.
All right, thank you so much, Dr.
You,
Victory Njoku, founder and chief executive officer of Vicky Haven Group of Companies.
Yes, thank you.
I hope you give me some of your ideas to decorate my house.
Of course, I will, for free, don't worry.
Thank you so much.
Thank you too, thank you.
You're welcome back. It's still Business Morning here on Channels Television. Now we're trying to balance those macro and micro indices that we have seen. We have seen some impressive macro indices, macroeconomic indices from Nigeria. We had a lot of applause, you know, going to the way of the federal government because of the reforms. And yet, when we look at the micro, it doesn't seem so good. So let's try to find that missing link this morning with Dr. Yowakwa Akpera. He's the former country director of Give Directly. Dr. Akpera, good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning, Nini. Thanks for having me.
So we've been hearing a lot of, you know, appreciation. Oh, Nigeria's reforms is on the right path, especially from the international community. But the people in Nigeria seem not to agree with that because of the microeconomic indices. What do you think is missing connecting these macro and micro indices?
I think the federal government, under the leadership of His Excellency Tinubu, is doing their best in economic reforms, and we're beginning to see those results. Our macroeconomic indices are going in the right direction. I think it's also time to turn his attention fully to our socioeconomic reforms as well and try to push that needle up so that it then creates the balance on the macro and the micro to see real growth. Like you noted, while our GDP is improved, things are going the right direction. Our poverty figures are only on the rise. So we look at poverty figures from 2020-2021 at 80 million Nigerians. It's close to about 150 million Nigerians now when you do the maths. And when you look at our unemployment rate is increased. Our inflation rate, even though you could argue that it's a bit stable at 22% and above, it's still not yet there. So I think the missing link now is to turn attention to some of these socioeconomic reforms to then drive a holistic development agenda that will see Nigeria not only prosper, but be a huge window of opportunities for all Nigerians.
Because, I mean, even World Bank has placed the number of the poor in the rural area alone at 75%, and food prices are increasing, and, you know, some other indices. Yes, as you've noted, we've seen stability in the price, in the value of the naira. But the people are still waiting, you know, for this to come down. Perhaps this should take us back to what the World Bank and IMF had said, that before these reforms, there's supposed to be some social safety nets created. Would you say it's too late for those nets to come on now?
And that's why I said it's time to also shift attention to socio-economic reforms. What should that look like? You are right. The World Bank puts about 75% of the total population, 75% of the rural population under poverty line. That translates to about 117 million people if you're looking at our total population estimate 2025 for about 237 million. That's a huge number. And then that same stat tells you that about 41% of those in urban areas are also below the poverty line. That translates to around 24 million. Put the maths together, it's about 137 out of 237 million people in Nigeria. So the numbers are huge. Now, there are some reforms on one hand that have strengthened our macroeconomic indicators, but those reforms also needs to be accompanied with some social, some safety nets that provide a cushion for the poor and vulnerable to give them access, right? So when you remove oil subsidy, the answer is not necessarily palliative. The answer is to look at innovative ways that take advantage of the economic crisis to stimulate economic growth. So when you look at introducing maybe cash transfers, introducing in a meaningful way well-targeted cash transfer programs, you look at introducing food stamps, for instance, or you look at creatively stimulating growth through some sectors. You look at improving some of the infrastructure that then pave way for microeconomic growth. That will provide the balance. So yes, we removed the oil subsidy. It's a brilliant thing to have done. We've been arguing and we've been advocating for it forever. Now it's finally here. But we need to then quickly bring up measures that cushion the impact of those, of the removal of the oil subsidy. Remember, we're just coming out of COVID crisis and trying to recover from COVID economic crisis. Then the oil subsidy came in to then add on to that. So the federal government needs to now turn its attention. The last time I was with you, I was advocating for the Mr. President to declare a state of emergency on poverty. And the question was that we have declared loads and loads of emergencies. What good has come out of it, right? But we think that if we are very purposeful on economic reforms and we have a driver, someone or an agency or a ministry with the convening power and the requisite authority to drive it, we will see some effect, right? In the past administration, and this is not comparing administrations in any way, the social investment programs were introduced under the office of the vice president. Now, it was someone who does not only have the capacity, it was someone who had the vision. It was also someone who had the convening power and had the requisite authority backing the responsibility that he was given to drive. So he took it, he owned it, he drove it, he was the face of it, right? Now, in this administration, you want to do that, Mr. President needs to identify such a person. He has declared Nigeria First policy, which is in entirety is the way to go. It's the best thing that might even happen. It might just be the face of this administration. But who is driving Nigeria First agenda? Who has the convening power and the capacity to drive that, to own that as a vision? Because it translates into all sectors of our economy, right? So Nigeria First means, for instance, giving confidence to a shoemaker in Aba, for instance, that is producing leather shoes, and rather than put a Louis Vuitton on it, it puts made in Aba. That's of quality that everybody can use. It translates to maybe looking at our energy sector that is very, very poor at the moment. I mean, 90 million Nigerians are without steady power supply or even any means of power supply, right? And energy drives economy. So if you say, okay, let's be deliberate and solarize our communities, for instance, we have a decaying health sector. Our primary health cares are completely not there, adding to the chaos and the problem. Solarize our public primary health care centers all over the country. Build economies around that alone, right? Mr. President went to Benue State and announced that let's use the tragedy of the Yelwata to turn the economic fortunes of Yelwata, for instance, now translating aid to economic fortune and building economies around the aid for Yelwata. Brilliant idea. Who is owning that? Who is driving that? So we need to identify those with that level of capacity to not only own some of these initiatives, but drive it purposefully for the overall development of our country.
Yeah, Dr. Akpera, and you've said a whole lot of things there, from the ideas of how to stimulate the economy and those social net ideas. And I think the biggest question you've asked there is who is driving it? We know what has happened with the ministry that is supposed to take care of the social intervention programs. And then we haven't really seen a conclusion to it. There was investigation and all of that. And so anybody who comes on board now is looked at with suspicion, whether the person is performing or not. How do you suggest that the government can get someone who can drive these programs you've suggested and also win the trust of Nigerians, because that's totally gone in that area, so that we can have a social intervention programs that are well driven and honestly driven?
I think Mr. President has a very brilliant person in the helm of affairs of the humanitarian ministry. Prof is really an intelligent person that when you engage with him, you know that he has the capacity, he has the vision. But the question is, does he has the requisite convening power? Because driving poverty alleviation is multi-sectorial. How much power does he have to pull Ministry of Agriculture, to translate what Ministry of Agriculture is doing to speak to the socio-economic reforms agenda of Mr. President that sits with him, perhaps? What convening power does he have to translate education into that? Or is it running at in parallel lines or in competition where they're not speaking to each other? So that needs to happen. You need to have that level of power. Before, the vice president was, or the president himself, giving that power, but pulling the team together. Now, if you look at the social investment programs as it is now, it needs a complete overhaul, complete rebranding. We look at it with suspicion, we look at it with suspicion, yes, that's the right word. And you're right. So we need to move away from social investment. Just don't call it social investment. We need to move towards social protection and strengthen our social protection floors, strengthen our targeting system, rely on accurate data, build on evidence to plan, and to design programs that speaks to development. We need to unlock our small enterprises by providing infrastructure that helps growth, by providing training, startups that supports small businesses to grow. The tax reform, great idea, giving tax holidays or no tax at all for those businesses that earn below a certain amount of money. And a lot of small businesses fall into this category, which is great. But tax reforms alone cannot do it for them when they don't have the requisite infrastructure to reduce cost further, like power. So start by also building community hubs or community warehouses with power that helps small businesses own small places within there to do their various trade, make clothes, design clothes. You spoke to an interior decorator here. There are loads of young folks out there with those ideas and with those initiatives. Create hubs that allow them turn their ideas into meaningful products, right? So it's going to be a holistic future. Now, the Minister of Finance is the face of economic reforms. The central bank governor, both are working hard. The head of FIRS, three of them are our economic reform faces who are driving that agenda. Mr. President needs to then get another strong face to drive the socio-economic reform side of things, build on strong social protection floors that speaks to development, to support these macroeconomic reforms that indicators that are on the rise, to also have that microeconomic reform growth balance, so that we'll have a holistic development. Right? So it will take a bit of time for us to begin to have that impact of those reforms on the downside if we are not setting in place the necessary structure that allows the lower level of the poverty pyramid to also grow and move out of poverty. So yes, strong social safety nets work. Building strong social protection floors is the ideal. This is what a lot of countries are falling back to. So we need to build a very strong social reforms agenda. We need to have a strong and well-capacitated institution to drive that for Mr. President.
So, Dr. Aquara, you also talked about stimulating growth. We've seen President Trump being very intentional about that. His big, beautiful bill is cutting off taxes, that's supposed to, stimulate more economic productivity. In the case of Nigeria, when we talk about stimulating growth, I wonder where you think we can tackle it from. Because, of course, we have the fiscal issues, we have the security issues. Talking about interest rates, we are forced to increase interest rates because we're trying to fight inflation. So when you talk about stimulating growth in a scenario, the Nigerian scenario, where do you see it coming out from?
Well, there are a variety of issues, right? Tied to first around our infrastructure deficit. America will be successful because they will not have those minute level challenges. So we need to also look at trying to correct those infrastructure deficits. We really need to work hard on correcting the imbalance of our energy situation. I mean, over 90 million Nigerians without power. It's a huge problem. We need to correct access road where our products come in. Yes, we've declared emergency in food security, but the removal of oil subsidy has shot the transportation cost up, mounting pressure on farmers. Insecurity has pushed the farmers in the rural areas to IDP camps. I mean, Benue with a population of 7 million, for instance, close to 5 million or close to 4 million are in IDP camps. Some have been there for over 15 years. Some of them have been born in IDP camps of over 15 years, have not seen the four walls of a classroom. They are not educated. These IDP camps have not provided infrastructure for education, right? And so that will add to our productivity problem. This will further add to the insecurity challenges. Because a young man at that level without hope, without any access, we turn to what is available, becoming ready guns for bandits, for kidnappers, and for crime, which then further pushes forward our insecurity challenges. And we must be deliberate about insecurity. We need to put our foot on the ground and solve this problem completely. And this has also to do with a lot of the other issues that we talked about improving our education, improving our primary healthcare, our healthcare structure, improving our infrastructure deficit, good roads, power, etc., good water, to give, lift a standard of living in the rural areas. The statistics are right. 75% of those who dwell in the rural areas are poor. Out of our total population of 237 million, 75% are in the rural areas. Now, when you do the math, that will be around 130 something or close to 178 million people in the rural areas. Now, 75% of them are poor. That translates to about 117 million Nigerians who are in the rural areas, who are poor, who do not have access to education, or access to good water, or access to energy, or access to healthcare. They are the people who depend on food supply. Half of that population, especially in the north, are in IDP camps, pushed by insecurity. That further lowers the numbers of capable hands and available hands in agriculture. Now, even the few that are in agriculture, they are burdened by high cost of fertilizer, herbicides, etc. And it's because we also remove oil subsidy that the prices of production has increased. We are more into import. When you import, and the exchange rate, even though a bit stable, you will argue, and coming down to 1,500, it's still not there yet. I mean, any product you bring, even at $1, or $10 worth of herbicide, you translate to naira, it's about 15,000 naira. Where will a poor farmer who's in the rural area without this access afford that to improve yields? So we were still basically on the basic agricultural produce. And also remember, because of the deficit of infrastructure, he doesn't even have the road to move these products into the markets where you have better markets. Now, what efforts are we making, even the little that we are producing, to find the right markets for it? Like opening markets in even the South, in the West African region. Trade between West African countries, it's poor. What efforts are we making to unlock those to improve our economy? So there's still a lot to do. I mean, if we want to start to talk about it, we'll talk on end. If we want to unpack it sector by sector, we will also have a lot to say and a lot of time to spend on it. But overall, we need Mr. President to also turn his attention to socio-economic reforms and try to strengthen that. We need someone to drive his Nigeria First agenda with a very strong, who has the capacity, has the vision, owns it, and have the authority to drive that. We need to see that. And so when you bring the socio-economic reforms, the economic reforms that are going on, you marry it, and then you will begin to see holistic growth in our country.
So, Dr. Akpera, I am almost sure that these ideas are not new. You know, these are ideas that people have discussed and all of that. Nigeria First is not the first time we're discussing Nigeria First. But do you see intentionality in the government of the day to actually follow through after the speeches, I mean, you yourself said it, we've had a lot of state of emergency declared on food security and all of that. Do you see intentionality in actually bringing these things to come to pass?
I mean, we've seen it in the macroeconomic growth, so you won't argue that there's no intentionality by the current administration, right? I mean, the bold move of removing oil subsidy, I mean, it takes a lot to do that. We've been trying to do that like almost forever. We tried that even during Jonathan's time, where Ngozi Konjo-Iweala made that attempt, but it was just partial removal. And the subsequent administration has also been tried to do that. So the intentionality is there. The guts to do that is also there. Mr. President has demonstrated that through the removal of oil subsidy. He now begins to become intentional about the poverty question in Nigeria. He needs to be very intentional about the security question and resolving it. But he needs to have folks that buy this vision, own this vision, and drive it. And now we're not arguing that he does not have lieutenants, he does, right? But we need to begin to see more visible and concrete efforts and not just talk. Not just, we're going to, without adapting operation, catch and kill, operation see and end, whatever that is from our security agencies. They must show real intention of ending the insecurity crisis in this country and not just talk. We need to begin to see very strong moves from the poverty alleviation angle as well in terms of programs. We need to be more visible with even the social investment programs that are now a bit dormant. We need to see clarity in that. We need to see more visible efforts from the food security angle that would declare the emergency on. I mean, what is happening within that angle? Are we just going to buy tractors? What are we doing? And it has to be holistic. So I would say Mr. President has a good intention. He has the guts to do it. He has shown us. He needs to move the needle more to other sectors, particularly on the social side, to see that also sees some significant growth so that we will feel the impact of that and have holistic growth in our country.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Yoakwa Akpera, former country director of Give Directly. Thank you so much for your time and your views on the program.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate you.
Well, talking about agriculture, Vice President Kashim Shettima has reaffirmed the commitment of the federal government to transform the cassava industry in Nigeria and make it a major income earner for the country. He stated this at an event that marks the World Cassava Day in Abuja.
The 2025 World Cassava Day brings together government officials, including Vice President Kashim Shettima, farmers, off-takers and investors in the cassava production and value chain in Nigeria. The event focuses on using cassava to drive industrialization and food security in Nigeria, as well as exports.
Nigeria, as you all may know, is the largest producer of cassava in the world, but we recognize that production alone is not enough. The real opportunity lies in value addition and market access, agro-industrialization. Bringing cassava in the forefront as a permanent raw material for the food industry, for the textile industry, for the energy industry. We have derivatives of cassava that can actually drive innovation and drive socioeconomic dynamics and economic activities within our rural communities.
According to the Nigeria Cassava Investment Accelerator, an initiative led by the Lagos Business School, the country captures only 2% of the $183 billion global processing market, as most of its production is lost to waste or used in low-value food-grade applications, underpinning the need for the adoption of new technologies and innovation.
We have been implementing a project over the past 3 decades, which is called Root and Tuber Expansion Program. But we realize expansion is not enough. And so this project has now been transformed into root and tuber crops industry and export development program, RTIDE.
At the Federal Ministry of Innovation, Science and Technology, we are actively working to unlock the full potential of the cassava value chain through science, technology, and innovation. Some of our strategic efforts include supporting research and development through partnerships.
Vice President Kashim Shettima reiterates efforts by the administration of President Bola Tinubu to reposition cassava production in Nigeria.
We are prioritizing private capital, research and coordinated action across government, academia, and development partners to drive mechanization, agro-processing, quality inputs, and full commercialization of cassava. This initiative is expected to save the nation over 3 trillion naira annually by reducing our dependence on imported fuel additives. It will also stimulate the emergence of a circular economy in agriculture and allow us to harness byproducts for energy, fertilizers, and industrial inputs.
The Vice President also calls on smallholder farmers to take advantage of the various programs being implemented by the current administration to grow their fortune and contribute meaningfully to the growth of the economy. From the Presidential Villa, Empress Simon, Channels Television News.
That's it. Another area of potential for Nigeria, cassava. So many potentials to explore. Well, anyway, let's find out what Ladi has been exploring from the global scene. Ladi?
Yes, yes, Ini, I have one big, beautiful gift for you today, and I'll give you
I hope it's
some
not from
time.
President Trump.
It is Trump-related, and, you know, you get it later.
Okay.
One big, beautiful gift for Ini. All right, let's head to the stories now. Yes, as I was saying, the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, or the OBBBA, it's a comprehensive budget reconciliation bill recently passed by the U.S. Congress. Central to President Donald Trump's second-term agenda, it includes wide-ranging policies on taxation, spending, national security, a piece of legislation that cements 2017 tax cuts, restricts social welfare programs, surges funding for immigration-related efforts, and curtails green energy incentives. In the wake of the bill's passage, Trump promises to the legislation that he will make the U.S. Like a rocket ship into success. The bill will be signed into law in a White House ceremony. That's July 4th. That's today. The U.S. Independence Day. Let's unpack, some of it at this point. Permanent tax cuts. That's Cuts and Jobs Act, and that's permanent at this time. Otherwise set to expire, estimated $4.5 trillion in tax cuts, primarily benefits higher income earners. They will have the child tax credit increase that permanently increases the child tax credit from $2,000 to $2,200 per child, starting in 2026. For the Medicaid cuts and restriction, it imposes work requirements, about 80 hours a month for able-bodied Medicaid recipients aged 19 to 64, with some other exemptions, increases frequency of eligibility checks, and estimated at 11.8. But I'll carry on with this in just a moment. And I guess you have an announcement here.
Yes. For our DSTV viewers, we have to lead you to Gwagwalada, where there's a commissioning of a newly rehabilitated Aguma Palace Radio Nigeria New Market Road in Gwagwalada. It's the New Market by Radio Nigeria Junction. That's is going to be for our DSTV viewers. For our other viewers, you're still right here on Business Morning. Ladi?
Yes, you still have your big, beautiful gift here. And still carrying on for clean energy program there. We're going to see cuts there with this bill. And definitely we've seen that spat between President Trump and Elon Musk there. And that means less incentives for most of the EV makers there. And it also shuts down greenhouse gas reduction fund, EV tax credits that's supposed to expire by that September, this year. So yes, it's a huge bill there with impacts already, being talked about by analysts there. Some are afraid that this will add to the debt burden right there in the U.S., adding about $3 trillion, to that. But yeah, President Trump is really optimistic about this bill. We'll keep tracking to see how it progresses. So other stories now, we see U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, he did say that President Donald Trump will make the final decision on whether to extend the July 9th deadline for higher tariff rates on trading partners. The current 10% universal surtax on the European Union, Japan, and other trading partners was implemented on April 9th for a 90-day negotiating period following Trump's pause on higher duties announced early in April. Bessent warned that the countries should be careful. Their rate could boomerang back to the April 2nd rate if negotiations aren't successful. Then to the jobs report now, the U.S. economy added more jobs than anticipated in June in a sign of ongoing resilience in the labor market despite recent concerns over the impact of sweeping tariffs. Non-farm payrolls last month rose by 147,000 jobs, upwardly revised to 144,000. According to a closely watched report from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, as job gains in state government and healthcare were partially offset by declines in the federal workforce. The economists had expected the figure would come in at 111,000. Meanwhile, the unemployment rate decelerated slightly to 4.1%, cooler than estimates of 4.3%. It also registered about 4.2%. That was in May. All right, let's look at NVIDIA now. The share price has reached an all-time high, trading at $158.72 with a market capitalization of $3.84 trillion. This milestone reflects a significant upward trend in the company's stock performance over the past year, delivering a 22.6% return this year. The increase underscores strong investor confidence and positive market sentiment surrounding NVIDIA's business prospects and technological advancements. I guess no more maybe deep-seek concerns at this point. We'll see if that impacts later on. Well, then over on to Europe now. German industrial orders, that fell by 1.4% in May compared to the previous month on a seasonally and calendar-adjusted basis. According to official data released today, the decline was larger than expected and primarily attributed to a substantial 17.7% month-on-month decrease in orders in the computer, electronic, and optical products sector. This sector had recorded several large-scale orders in April, creating a one-off effect that impacted May's figures. Strong decreases were also seen in the electrical equipment and basis metal sector, contributing to the overall decline. Foreign orders rose by 2.9% on month with mixed results by region. Orders from the Eurozone decreased by 6.5%, while orders from outside the Euro area that increased by 9.0%. Tini, that's much I can take, at this point, but we're seeing happy holidays for the U.S. citizens at this point.
Happy anniversary, Independence anniversary.
Independence anniversary. Maybe we'll go watch that movie again, Independence Day with Will Smith.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
So that's it on the program. Thank you so much for being a part of Business Morning today. Ladi will be back at 1 p.m. for Business Incorporated. You'll be here with Anete Edet. For me, have a great weekend. Bye-bye.